on Monday, September 13th, 2021 at 6:30 PM. Please join me in saluting the flag. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The record show all selectmen are present. Consent agenda warrant number 6, 8/23/21, number 7, 8/23/21, and payroll register number 33, 8/19/21, number 34, 8/26/21, and number 35, 9/2/21.
Make a motion.
I'll second.
Motion and a second to approve as read, the warrant and payroll register. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Catering permit for Blaze Restaurant Group.
So, Mr. Chairman, this is a one-day catering permit for a wedding at the Fairy Tale Gardens Event Center in East Madison on September the 19th.
Looking for a motion.
Move to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve a catering permit for Blaze Restaurant Group for a one-time, what was the date on it again?
19.
September 19th.
September the 19th.
September 19th, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
That does have a signature page that'll come around.
Renewal of the liquor license for VFW Post 7865.
Move to accept.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the liquor license for VFW Post 7865. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
That also has a signature page on it.
All right, letter D, acceptance of meeting minutes from August 23rd, 2021.
Move to accept.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes from August 23rd, 2021. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Old business, Mrs. Dwyer? Mr. Gopin?
None.
Mr. Mander?
None.
Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
All right. Items of communication, Mr. Town Manager?
Just a couple things to pass along tonight. In your packets, just to keep Mr. Moody signing, there's a place for you to sign, and I'll pass this around if you choose to do so, to appoint me as a voting member for the Maine Municipal Association at their annual meeting coming up at the end of this month. I can't nominate myself, but you can appoint me to vote on the town's behalf. So if you're interested in doing that, I would need a motion, so forth.
Looking for a motion to appoint Tim Curtis as a delegate to the Maine Municipal Association voting delegate.
I'll make a motion that we nominate him.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to appoint Tim Curtis as our delegate to the Maine Municipal Association. Any other questions? This will be at their annual meeting.
Right, end of this month.
Any other questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
Keeping your pen busy there.
Hold it, hold it.
The only other items of communication I thought I'd run by you real quickly, the Madison Business Alliance is now under new leadership. They have a new chair on their board, that is Faith Gogin. She's the owner of Wicked Lettuce on Main Street. They're holding their meetings in this building, and they meet in the room that's up the stairs. Just mark your calendars if you want to participate in the Hazardous Household Waste Take Back Day at the Skowhegan Transfer Station. That'll be held on Saturday, October the 2nd. If people want to participate, they can sign up at the town office. And just if everyone hasn't heard, the school district said an announcement today that due to complications with COVID, they're going to be remote for the rest of this week. And the complications are impacting every business that's open to the public, right? Because daycare centers may close, that affects how parents can go to work, and so you're short-staffed. And that's one of the reasons that the school has gone to remote. I just mentioned that to you tonight because the town office, we're under the same impact. if people can't get to work because their kids are home from school, they can't go to daycare, that impacts our staffing as well. So we have to, act accordingly. That is all I have for communication.
All right. New business. Number one, department head report, we have the sheriff's report.
Were there any questions from the board for the
Anything on the
sheriff?
sheriff's report? Mr. Road Commissioner, what do you think?
Well, the little section of Bean Street been paved last week
Yeah.
between Maple Street and Madison Avenue. The sidewalk will be completed in the next couple of weeks, and that project will be taken care of. We're still out we're on the Russell Road doing some ditching, getting that road ready to be paved in the coming weeks. Ames Hill Road was all done last week, and Orchard Road will be done next Tuesday. A couple of guys have been taking some vacations and some weeks off, and that's about it.
I did want to add, Mr. Chairman, that in your packets, there's a written report from the librarian, from Julie Forbes. I know that you've been looking for an update on the roofing project. It's nearly complete. She gives you an outline of the money spent on that roofing project. Also, they're doing a natural gas conversion. Summit Natural Gas has already run the line from Old Point Avenue over to the library, and Bob's Cash Fuel is going to hook up a new boiler next week, so they should be on natural gas for the rest of for this coming winter. And she also highlights the next big priorities are the replacement of the historical windows at the very top of the library. In the process of the roofers working up there, they determined that some dry rot was occurring up there. That's going to be a project that's going to require a lot of undertaking and coordinating from the library and grants and so forth. And also their ADA accessibility. The ramp that they have is getting old and it probably needs to be replaced, so those are some of the new priorities coming up at the library.
Any other questions on that? We have anything from the fire department?
No, Don was not available.
All right, so we'll move on. All right, number two, discuss plow truck and body bids.
All right, in your packet, you should have a sheet of paper that looks like this, and these bids were broken down into those equipments that could be offered just as the plow package and dump body, and then there's two that were offered as the cab and chassis separately, and then at the bottom of the page, there was one offer of a 2022 demo that was already fully equipped and ready to go. At this point, I'm going to turn it over to the road commissioner, and he can kind of walk you through his recommendations.
Yeah, my recommendations for the truck would be the Freightliner of Bangor for $95,783, and the plow and all the plow gear and the dump body would be for Viking of Lewiston, Maine for $80,262. The truck is expected to be delivered sometime in the fall of 22, if everything goes well. And the body and the plow gear and the new plow, the wing, sander, and dump body will be installed as soon as that arrives, and hopefully have it ready for the plowing season of 2022.
Any questions for the road commissioner? If not, we'll take these separately, correct?
Yes.
Alright, so looking for a motion on the Viking of Maine, 2021 Viking PT and a bunch of other numbers for $80,262.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Alright, we have a motion and a second to accept the bid from Viking of Maine, which is out of Lewiston, Maine. Any questions? Questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Alright, we're looking for a motion for Freightliner of Maine, Bangor.
I'll make a motion to accept.
Second.
Alright, we have a motion and a second for a 2023 Freightliner 1085D. Freightliner of Bangor, Maine. Any questions, road commissioner? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries. All right, number 3, discuss highway boiler bids. Mr. Road Commissioner, or Mr. Town Manager.
Well, I was just gonna say, in front of you, as a separate piece, so not in that packet, you should have a separate piece that came in today, because these 2 bids came in this morning. And this is for a natural gas conversion at the highway garage. When Summit put their pipe in, it goes right behind the highway garage, up on the end of Madison Avenue. And so the road commissioner secured 2 bids for this project, one from Hools down in Waterville, the other one from Bob's Cash Fuel here locally. And again, have you got the information in front of you?
I do.
All right, I'll turn it over to the road commissioner.
We're gonna be replacing the oil-fired boiler at the garage that has been up there, 20-some odd years plus. We had gotten it from MEW when they switched out their furnace years ago. And we just decided that it would be a good time to update this with the rebates from Summit Gas and some other things that have been taking place. We had to move our parts room out of our boiler room because of insurance reasons. We extended our break room to take up the extra space because of the COVID, pandemic, so we had more room to get all the guys into the shop. So one thing led to another, so we decided to go with a natural gas-fired boiler, because the gas is already right at the garage and was installed years ago when they ran the gas line up Madison Avenue. I got two proposals from Hools of Waterville. It's $28,500 for 2 units. That will equal the BTUs that we need, but they will operate alternately. They gave us a price of $28,500 for just 1 unit. Bob's gave us a price of $24,168.29 for a single unit, and both units will fit in that room easy enough. My recommendation is to go with Bob's for $24,168.29.
All right, any questions?
I assume the one for Bob's is also stainless steel.
I believe it is, yes.
Okay.
All right, looking for a motion.
I have one.
Sure.
The last sentence here, removal and disposal of the old boiler is not in this quote. Who's gonna take care of that?
So we will at the garage. When we rebuilt that room, we got it so we could take the door out and pull that old furnace right out. We also are gonna lower the chimney at the garage, because we don't need the height of that and the draft anymore. So that will save a little bit of money of running the stainless steel pipe, the exhaust all the way up the whole length of that, because it's a very tall chimney.
Amen.
I'll move $24,168.29.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to award the bid to Bob's Cash Fuel for $24,168.29. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor? Opposed? Here's the vote. All right, number 4, discuss code officer position.
All right, I want to bring the board up to speed and introduce our code officer in training, and if it's the will of the board tonight, we can move him from in training to an alternate code officer for the town of Madison. We were approached by a young man named Amos Mishu about 6 weeks ago. Amos has completed his studies at Kennebec Valley Community College with a degree in carpentry. During that time, he also took most of the exams that are required for code officers in the state of Maine, and he is a certified licensed plumbing inspector. So he had the certifications, but he didn't have the hands-on experience. So we paid for Amos to work with Dave Savage in the town of Oakland during the month of August, and he got a feel for what code enforcement is actually like, boots on the ground. And so I'd like, at the risk of embarrassing you, Amos, I'd like you to come up here so the select board can get a good look at you. So,
All right, welcome.
anything I missed in your introduction you want to add, or?
No, well, the degree was actually sustainable construction, went over all aspects of construction, not just carpentry, but,
Thank you.
no offense. But, yeah, no, that's me in a nutshell.
So Amos has been in the office only for a week or so at the town office, but in my experience and with Dave's recommendation as well, he seems to have a good knowledge of the certifications and the requirements and so forth. And so it's my recommendation that the board appoint him as an alternate code officer. Leo Mayo would still operate as our code officer going forward, but this would give Amos the opportunity to sign simple permits, do simple inspections, take a little bit off of my plate, and learn as he goes.
Has he had a chance to speak with Leo?
Actually, because Leo is ships in the wind, Leo's probably going to stop by the office tomorrow, and that will give you an opportunity to meet him.
Mr. Moody?
Where do you live?
I live in Waterville.
Is that gonna be a problem for you?
No, I've got a pretty reliable car, it's about a 25-minute drive, so.
All right, so we're looking for a motion to accept Amos Issue as the alternative code officer and alternative plumbing officer, inspector for the town of Madison.
Just a minute, please.
All right.
Tim, is he gonna have any office hours at the town office?
Right now, we're starting him in the town office on Tuesdays and Fridays, all day, on both of those days. And then we'll address that as needs the job change. So,
And are we gonna make the town aware that we do have somebody on those days in the office?
we find that people that are in the know get to know that pretty quickly.
Okay,
So we'll get the word out there.
okay. Thank you.
Looking for a motion.
Make a motion to accept Amos issue as a code enforcement officer in the building.
I'll second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to appoint Amos Mishu as the alternate code enforcement officer and alternate plumbing inspector for the town of Madison. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries.
There are some signatures.
Yeah, you're hired.
Thank you.
Congratulations, thank you.
All right, number 5, discuss financial notes between the town and Go Lab.
All right, back in your packets, you should have about a page and a half summary that looks like this. That kind of gives a summary of 4 different financial arrangements between the town and GoLab, which is the company that bought the former Madison paper facility. They bought it in August of 2019, so they've been in there a little over 2 years. And most of that time, they have spent raising money. We are all hopeful that in the month of September, they will close on an $85 million bond. And that bond plus the 30-some million dollars that they have raised on their own will allow them to get this project started, getting equipment in there, hiring people. They've got quotes from Chimbro and from Bancroft to do all the work of getting everything ready to get their equipment in there. So over the last 2 years, the town of Madison has entered into 1 loan and 3 other grants on their behalf. And as they're going out to bond, I don't understand how bonds work, but I know banks are involved. The banks want to make sure that everything is wrapped up nice and neat with all these agreements between GoLab and the town. So I thought at the very least, we should review these, make sure you have any questions that you have answered, because perhaps at the next meeting, or at least the meeting in October, you will be asked to sign some documents related to these. So I thought, rather than throwing them at you for your signatures, we'd have a discussion first, so everybody's kind of on the same page. So,
I kinda missed that. What was the date they're gonna get started?
they
I
hope
mean-
to,
I mean, for the 85 million.
they hope to close on that in the month of September, the month we're right now.
They haven't come up with a date or anything.
No, it all depends on the banks and lawyers and all that other stuff that's involved. So the first item on that sheet is the loan that the town of Madison made to Go Labs back in 2019. It's a $400,000 loan. Of that money, $300,000 came to the town as a grant from the Community Development Block Grant, CDBG. And it was matched by $100,000 from the town's revolving loan account, which is funded by our TIF funds. So we loaned GoLab $400,000, and at that time, the only collateral available was engineering plans. So we paid for engineering $400,000 with that loan. They have spent over $2 million on engineering so far. So our money was go toward a portion of that. And as a result, our collateral is we have access to all the engineering plans. So the thinking behind that is if they don't make it, at least we have $2 million worth of engineering plans to provide to the next person who may want to go in there and revitalize that mill site. We hate to talk negatively, but you have to talk realistically. They've owned the mill site for 2 years and they haven't been able to get started yet. So hopefully they'll get started in the next few months. But if they don't, we need to make sure that we are prepared for the next owners of the site. So that originally in 2019, it was a 7-year note and it was all going to be paid back in August of 2026 with a balloon note. They have requested to change that now that they're going into their closing. So you see that the requested changes, they want to push it back from August of 2026 to August of 2028. So it'll be interest-only payments to begin now, interest and principal payments from August 24 to 28, and then a final balloon payment in 2028. You see there the interest rate is 5.25%, which is based on prime plus 2%. So, any questions on the loan? Because those changes will be coming to you in the upcoming meeting.
Yeah, so from now, this came due this month, right? 2 years, this first half up here. And with no payments for 2 years,
Right.
interest only until 2026. So they was gonna pay interest on 400,000
Right.
for 2 years. And then they're gonna pay it off at the end of, in August.
The original note was they had no payments, no interest at all for the first 2 years.
Right.
So starting last month in August, they would start paying interest-only payments for 5 years.
Mhm.
And then pay the whole thing off with a balloon payment in 2026.
Okay,
That was the original note.
right. Now they wanna change it to go to 28, right?
Yeah.
And they wanna start making the first payment in 24.
Principal and interest. They'll start making interest payments right now, just like they're supposed to in the original note. So the only thing that really changes is the end balloon.
Okay, so they're gonna pay interest and principal now.
Interest only now, interest and principal in 2024.
Okay, and then in 28, it's gonna,
It'll be a balloon in 28.
have we been paying on this 400,000?
Have we been paying on it? No, I mean, we've used it. We have paid a company named Stantec for the engineering. So all the $400,000 has been expended.
Oh, no.
It's already out.
Any other questions?
All right. The next item on the list is a $400,000 grant. This one's pretty simple. This was a grant we received from the Maine Development Foundation. We used it to help Go Labs tear down a lot of the existing outdoor buildings. Specialty chemicals building, the boiler house, everything pretty much around that big smokestack. So we use this grant money to help them tear all that down. That money's all been expended, all the final reports have been done, that grant is all closed out. It's a grant, they're not gonna pay us back anything, the work is done, and the folks at the Maine Development Foundation have checked off and saying, okay, you're all done. Any questions on that one?
Yeah, so in these grants and loans, are we the ones that are writing these, or are they doing?
For everything on these 2 pages, we wrote these,
You wrote
the town did.
But the money's coming from the state.
The money comes from the state or the federal government to the town, and the town uses it to benefit that site down there. So the third one at the bottom of the page is a $250,000 grant from CDBG, and we used that, the town used that to purchase a boiler. This boiler was in Canada, and we were authorized to pay for the boiler, shipping it here, and all the accessory parts needed to put it in. This boiler will basically operate the compressed air systems that will be part of the equipment. It's not nearly as big of a boiler that the mill had. The mill had 3 huge boilers, if you recall. Now, this is for equipment. This is different from engineering. We got this federal grant for equipment, so that means the town has to own it and lease it back to Go Labs. So that paperwork will be coming to you in the near future. The terms and conditions of probably a 7-year lease between the town of Madison and Go Labs. Because it's a grant, we don't expect to get that $250,000 back, but we have agreed to, in principle, to cover the costs in their lease payments of our time. The time that Tammy and I have spent working on these grants. We're also covering what we would lose in personal property tax because we own this equipment and GoLab doesn't. And what it costs for us to insure it and to make sure all the legal documents are okay. So our initial agreement, and again, you'll have a chance to see this paperwork, for this boiler is a 7-year lease in which GoLab pays us $70,000, essentially $10,000 a year. And that essentially pays for our time and our other vested interests in that piece of equipment. So you should see that shortly. So any questions about that boiler lease? Oh, all the hands.
Has that been shipped, or is it,
It's sitting down there at the mill.
it's here?
I've got a picture of it on my phone. It says Tim's Boiler, spray paint on the side.
Mr. Manton.
That's what I was gonna ask, but we gotta at least get a picture of it.
We go. We got 3 great minds here thinking alike.
Mine was, so we own the boiler, right? And at the end of the 7 years after they pay $70,000, they're gonna own the boiler.
They will own it, right.
Is it used now, or is it brand new?
It was used when we bought it.
So what happens if something happens between now and the end of that 7 years? Who fixes it?
Right, and that will be part of the lease agreement that we'll make sure the town attorney looks at, that they will be responsible for any repairs, maintenance, that sort of thing.
And the last one.
So the last one hasn't happened yet, but we have been awarded $1 million from the Northern Borders Regional Commission, which is a federal program. So the reason that we wanted to hammer out the details of the boiler lease is we plan on spending $800,000 to $1 million to put HVAC units on the top of the mill. This is essential so that there's heat in the mill while they're working. This has been a big deal ever since, the mill went down. If you remember, when the liquidators owned it and they were trying to get the paper machine out of it, the people that were working in there had to stop in November because it got so cold from November to May, they couldn't work in there. So these HVAC units are gonna cost about $800,000. Just like the boiler, once they're paid for and in there, they're the town of Madison's units. And we will construct a lease very similar to the boiler lease for those units as well. Those will be brand new.
Questions?
Yeah, I still haven't, if he's getting $85 million coming in, and what was the other one on?
They raised $30 million,
They
right?
have 30, and he's getting 85 coming in, so.
Right.
So why they need this $1.5 million?
Well, remember, this all started 2 years ago, when we were applying for grants to get things started. The reason that we're interested in doing it is if they don't make it. If they don't make it, the town of Madison owns that equipment. The town of Madison has more rights to the property. The town of Madison has engineering that can be used for the next person. Again, we're anticipating and hoping they go gangbusters and it goes great. But in the world we live in, we don't know for sure. So this way, this money that's spent, at least the town of Madison has a vested interest in the property. And we've improved it. The heating thing is a big deal. It's hard to get anybody interested in manufacturing that building if there's no heat. And there is no heat right now.
Is there any stipulations, Tim, as far as all of these grants come in that are going to this company? If this is a no-go at some time down the road, how does this money relate back? I mean, somebody gonna pay this back, or if there's some left over, what happens? Are they responsible for that?
So in the agreements between GoLab and the town of Madison, of course, they're paying back the $400,000 loan. In that $250,000 for the boiler, they are required to pay that back if they don't create so many jobs. That whenever you have CDBG loans or grants, it's always about job creation. So if they don't create so many jobs, then they have to pay the money back because we're required to give it back to the state who gives it back to the federal government.
Yeah, I understand it, and some of these, like this last one, this $1 million, if that doesn't end up transpiring, I mean, they're gonna wanna know the justification of this $1 million. How does that work?
So it's a great question, and luckily I have a good example. So the Northern Borders money is a little bit different from CDBG. With the Northern Borders money, you can go to Northern Borders and say, we would like to change our project. I'll give you an example. Madison Electric had a $300,000 Northern Borders grant to help the guy that you met a few years ago start a strawberry greenhouse. So you remember that strawberry greenhouse never went anywhere. And so MEW goes back to Northern Borders and say, hey, this strawberry greenhouse is a no-go. Can you help us shift this money to use somewhere else? Well, in between those times, their boiler blew up there on Jones Street. And so the Northern Borders group was able to shift that $300,000 to help pay for the repairs and equipment up there on the Jones Street project. So with Northern Borders, if GoLabs falls apart and doesn't go anywhere, we can at least shift this money and find other development projects in town that we can put the money for.
Okay, so,
We don't have to pay that $1 million back.
yeah, that was my basic question. How much liability do we have towards this $1 million?
So we can redirect it.
Okay.
All right.
One point that you left out, Tim, that party has to sign off on it. That guy that wanted to do the strawberry greenhouse, he had to sign off on that, or we couldn't have used that fund. So you're saying a good thing on that $1 million if your relationship still stays strong with GoLabs.
Right.
If they pack up and go leave town, that money follows them, not you.
But, I see what you're saying, but hopefully, these HVAC units will be in by the end of this year. So at least we'll have something tangible for that money. Thank you, that's a
You have
good
to
point.
sign off on it.
Right.
Any other questions, Mr. Gopi?
Now, you mentioned so many jobs, how much does he get per person for it? If he hires 100 people, 50 people, how much is added in money? Is it figured that way?
No, it's actually figured the opposite way. So for a $250,000 grant, it's $30,000 per job So 30 goes into 25, 6, 7, so 7 or 8 jobs is what they have to create in order to secure that 250,000.
7 jobs?
7, right. And they're hoping to hire 45 this fall. So,
We'll see this again in the end of
So,
September.
right, I just want to make sure we get all our questions out here. I'm sure you'll have other questions that will come to light. And once I get the lease agreement and the changes to the loan, I will send those to Ken Lexier, the lawyer in Skowhegan. He'll take a look at it all, make sure they're all legit, and then after that, we'll bring them back for you.
Any other questions? Alright, seeing none, we'll move on. Discuss general assistance thresholds for 2022.
All right, each year you have to sign an amendment to the town's general assistance ordinance because the state adjusts the maximums. So in your handout, I think I included a summary from Kim Moody, who's our welfare director. There are small changes, either ranging from a $7 increase to a $16 increase on as far as households and what they can claim as income to qualify for general assistance. And so I just need a motion to the effect of.
Alright, so we're looking for a motion to accept the general assistance ordinance and maximums for 2021, 2022.
Yes, that'll work.
Can I ask a question first?
Sure, Mr. Booker.
Now, when the state went from $7 to $16, from $2 to $16, did they have any money in this? Do we get extra money for this?
Regardless of what the state sets for the maximums, the town always receives 70% reimbursement. So if we spend $10,000 in general assistance, the state will give us $7,000 back.
Alright, so looking for a motion.
So moved as read.
Alright, a motion and a second to approve the general assistance ordinances maximums for 2021, 2022. Any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, motion carries.
2 pages.
Alright, number 7, discuss use of ARPA funds. Not AARP. Sorry, Mr. Gopin.
So the ARPA funds, also referred to as COVID relief funds, these are the funds that are being distributed to each town across the country, actually, and all the towns in Maine. Some of the larger cities in Maine, like Bangor, Portland, Lewiston, they've already received these funds and they've already been dispersing them and spending them. There are only 4 ways that the federal government says you can spend these funds. And so with a little help from an email I received from the town manager of South Portland, I put together a single-page summary in your packet that gives the 4 different areas that you can spend the money and my recommendations for what we might want to do with that. Overall, over 2 years, the town is slated to receive $487,945, so just about $488,000 from the federal government. They'll break that up into 2 payments. We've done all the work that we need to do on our end of setting up our account in the state's portal, and so we would anticipate receiving our first half payment sometime in the next couple of weeks. Once that comes in, we have to file reports on how we spend it, and I'm assuming that there's a mechanism in the state and federal government to approve those, although all the details have not been relayed to us as yet. So on this sheet, I just wanted to get the discussion starting tonight. I'm not looking for a motion or any action other than just maybe answering any questions or seeing if there's any other comments on this. So the 4 categories are revenue replacement, responding to public health emergency, hazard pay for workers, and water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. What I did was I wrote a little summary paragraph there, and I picked a percentage that should be allocated. So revenue replacement is fairly simple, but it's also very complex because it's the federal government. They have a formula to use. Based on the formula that I've plugged in, during COVID, we lost about $16,000 worth of revenue that we anticipated coming in. In addition to that, if you remember, during the budget meetings, the Budget Advisory Board and the Select Board cut about $140,000 out of fire and highways projected capital spending. So I'm applying to the federal government for that money to be given back to the town for a total of about $163,000. That's about 33% of that total amount. Once that 163 is approved, then that money can go back into capital for highway and fire, for them to use in this upcoming budget. So that is my first recommendation. The second category is responding to public health emergencies, negative impacts. I recommend setting aside about 17% of this, about $80,000. We've already started down this road with matching grants to businesses. And this qualifies under number 2, that you can help a local business with a matching grant program. You could also take some of this money and provide it to nonprofits that help your area. I think of food cupboards, other things such as that. And finally, you could use this money to upgrade your ventilation in your workspace where the public is. That's something we've been looking at for quite a while at the town office to improve the ventilation there. The windows are from the 1950s, they would need to be replaced. And the air conditioning units we have should be upgraded to heat pumps and that sort of thing. So those are some of the things that we're looking at under that second category. The third category is to provide hazard pay for essential workers. This is something that's getting quite a bit of conversation about it online and in the newspapers. I'm taking a page from other managers who have allocated a small amount of money for this, like 5% of the total thing, because politically you don't want to be, seen as taking too much of the money and paying it to employers. That might trigger feedback from taxpayers that may be negative. So if you take 5%, and which is about $24,500, and you use that to offer a one-time payment, whether you call it a bonus or whether you call it a stipend, to the employees that worked all the way through COVID and had to deal with the hazards of COVID, and I think you can look at it in several different ways. Obviously, if you're a firefighter responding to an EMT situation with COVID, you were putting yourselves at risk. If you had to wait on customers all day and they weren't really happy with you because they had to wait in a long line, there's a hazard related to that. So what I recommend is taking 5% of that total money, $24,500, and meeting with the department heads, and you authorizing the money, but me and the department heads decide how it's divvied out in each department. Because each department's different. We have 16 full-time employees, but highway employees are different from office employees, and firefighters, they're all volunteers. But we should, I think, offer them something from this hazard pay or premium pay. So that's my thoughts on pay. And then finally, 45% of it I'm recommending to set aside for water, sewer, and broadband infrastructure. We're part of a small study that's going on with the county right now for broadband. We've paid in about $5,200 for that. We've got some major water and sewer projects that we need to be looking at now that we've put off for about 5 years. So Jeff, myself, Mike Corson from Water and Dale Clark from Sanitary sat down last week to start looking at major projects in town, like this portion of Preble Avenue that goes from Old Point out to the ball fields, Heald Street, Houghton Street, other streets like that, which need some major water, sewer, and reconstruction work. We can take some of this money and use it toward that.
We're not gonna use any of it for Old Point, the pipes that run down Old Point.
I'm not following you. You talking about sewer?
Yes,
The whole point's a state road.
yes, and if I remember correctly, isn't the hang up for them doing any paving or anything to that? Isn't gonna happen until the work underneath the road is taken care of? Am I wrong?
I'm not following you. Do you know what
I
you're saying?
haven't heard anything about that, Ron, unless the previous road commissioner has recalled anything that has happened in the last, before I had taken over. I'm not aware of any, Ron.
Maybe I was led wrong, but I was under the impression that the state wouldn't do anything for this street, so to speak, unless there was some work done underneath the pavement. Maybe somebody can enlighten me on this.
I think the concern is all that old clay sewer pipe, it's
Right.
2-foot sections, and of course now they can line some of that, but that's pretty expensive to do, so I'm sure that even in town is why you hold off on streets, is because you need to replace the catch basins, the stormwater, and the sewer, and you wanna make sure water is going up the street before you do that, so.
Isn't this something down the road that's gonna have to be addressed sometime?
All that old clay pipe will have to be addressed. If you wanna see a picture, you wanna Google that and look at some of it.
And that's some of the pipe that is up on some of these side streets that we discussed last meeting about sidewalks. When that was brought up with sanitary, they like, oh, okay, wait a minute, we got a lot of old pipes under those sidewalks. We really need to look at doing full rebuilds on those streets before we do anything. Okay, I have a road commissioner's breakfast tomorrow, Wednesday morning, Ron, and usually there's a couple DOT people there. I could inquire about that if you'd like and ask some questions.
Yeah, because this is something I'd heard in the past, and exactly what Glenn was telling me here.
There's been no discussion so far of them coming up with the money for 201A.
No, there's no money allocated at all for the Narge Walk, from here to Narge Walk, or the road from the lights out to Clouds Corner.
But as far as the funding we'll receive, about $200,000 of it I would like to allocate towards the stormwater work that needs to be done on our roads. So any questions about these four?
So in the revenue replacement number one, when we did the capital budget in 2020, we had talked about a skid steer, I believe, for the
Right.
town garage and something else.
What's a sidewalk plow?
Sidewalk plow and some things we didn't do.
Well, those were put off.
Put off.
Yeah.
Right, okay, so, all right. Any other questions? Anybody have any questions?
I do.
Mr. Go.
When it rains out, Jeff knows about this on Main Street. I mean, that's a major problem too. That needs to be addressed.
But again, that's a DOT question.
Okay,
Not all of it.
no.
So, again, I'm talking about a very small pot of money here. That's why we're looking at roads like Preble, Houghton Street, and Field Street. In the grand scope of things, if there's work that we need to do in conjunction with the state and the sanitary districts on Main Street and Old Point Avenue, that's a completely different discussion. And that is something that, if there is federal money available, we should go try to get it. But it's gonna be in conjunction with the state and sanitary.
All right, any other questions? All right, thank you.
We'll get more information on this as it becomes available.
All right, number 8, discuss Forest Hills lot purchase.
So Tammy received a request from an individual that has a lot in Forest Hills. She wants to sell that lot back to the town and use part of that to buy another lot in Forest Hills. That's all I know. I'm assuming Tammy knows more.
So this couple purchased a 4 grave lot back in 2003. They paid $600 for it. They have not used it. They haven't put any stones or anything on the property. It is located closer to the 43 side in that area where the pond is. It's down in that section. The current owners would like to move or buy a new lot up at the East Houghton end where we did the new paving and created some new stones that used to be the Mitchell property. That, for a 4 grave lot, currently we've raised our rates, so it's $1,600 for a 4 grave lot. They paid $600. They're asking if they can use that $600 toward their purchase of their new lot, pay the extra $1,000, give the other lot back to the town and have me do a new deed to them.
So since the select board is the overseer of the cemeteries, we would need a motion from you to credit $600 towards the purchase of a new lot. And basically, we would take back their former lot.
Yeah.
Tammy, is this full grave burial sites, not cremations? They need the full-size sites?
Currently, they have a 4 grave lot, so every lot can have one full casket or 2 cremations.
Okay.
And that would be the same that they would buy over in the Mitchell expanded area.
Yeah.
Nothing's there, they're not in the cremation section at all.
Yeah, I think it's just too good.
Their current lot number is 1216, so you would want to say that the town could buy back lot 1216 and let the owners purchase a new one at the East Houghton area, or whatever they choose.
Alright, we're looking for a motion.
I'll make that a motion, Mr. Chairman,
All
just
right.
what Tammy said.
Alright,
Put that in a motion for
we
me.
have a second? Alright, we have a motion and a second to take back lot 1216 from the owner and credit their account.
Yep.
Alright, any questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. Alright, select board concerns, Mr. Moody?
None, sir.
Mr. Manton?
No,
Mr. Gokin?
Yes, I thought we were gonna talk about the bridge cemetery.
Not.
You had asked about that at the last meeting,
Right.
and I didn't put it on the agenda unless you want to talk about it now.
We can talk about that at the next meeting.
Okay. You want to
We'll
say
put it on
that?
the agenda for
Okay.
the next meeting. Anything else, Mr. Gokin?
That was it.
Mrs. Black? All right, I'm all set. Any citizens' concerns? Seeing none, look for a motion to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRS 4056A.
Make a motion. We're doing executive session.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session to discuss a personnel matter pursuant to 1 MRS 4056A. All those in favor? All in favor, the motion carries. We'll be in executive session at 11:20, 7:20. We won't